Hello, everyone, and welcome to Yuba Land Trust Youth Environmental Summit. Today, we are joined by Rick Berry, and I'm Felicia Dunn with Yuba Land Trust. Rick, do you want to give us a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Rick Berry, and I live here in Nevada City on the old Burton Homestead. And about 10 years ago, I started a nonprofit here called Four Elements Earth Education, locally known as Foxwalkers. And and before that, I ran one out east with the kind of through the tracker school called the Children of the Earth Foundation. So, been into teaching kids outdoor things, nature connection things for a whole bunch of years now. So, yeah, glad to be on the call.
And really excited to have Rick here on this chat. Again, we're going to be talking about Burton Homestead today and the role that Rick plays in youth environmental education with his nonprofit. And just to give you a little bit of background on the property, so Burton Homestead is located just outside of Nevada City in California, and it is a 38-acre parcel of land, and it was conserved and donated by Francis Burton. Maybe you can give a little background on how you got involved with the land trust and establishing your nonprofit on this land.
Yeah, actually, I moved back to this area in 2009, and actually, I went on like a walk with the land trust. Someone said you should go on this walk, and I said okay. And when I was on the walk, there was a guy. His name was Grayson Coney. Miwok guy that he was doing some stuff, and I was like, wow, all this cool stuff. And so he introduced me actually to Burton, and I started having kids over here, and it just slowly started, and pretty soon it just ended up, now we're here and we have a whole bunch of programs going on for youth. Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about those programs later on, but the original idea for this property is Frances Burton was a retired Nevada County librarian, and she really wanted her property to serve as like a hub for environmental education, just have this open space protected and available. So like Rick said, over the years, there's a lot of different programs that were there, and they've transformed and expanded over the years. The Land Trust used to have a summer camp there a couple years back now, and since then it's kind of disbanded. It was very popular, and now Rick's programs are there. And Rick, if you want to talk a little bit about the kind of programs you have on the land, how you engage kids with the natural world and how you use it to really engage and teach them.
Yeah. So yeah, our programs, it's kind of a mix, but a lot of it is they come here and they feel like they're part of like this kind of group community, and it's nature based. So there's no peer pressure, kind of like it's just nature. So nature doesn't really like judge you. And us as instructors and leaders, we try to have it so it's not a judgmental thing. It's nature. And so it's getting kids into nature through the earth skills. And the earth skills, what I'm talking about is like, part of that is like wilderness survival, but you always got to be careful with the word survival. You think of like these TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
and it is really more of living with the earth and building a real solid foundation in a relationship with the earth. And so we do teach like how to make a fire by hand, or how to track animals. And then we also have things like observation. So you go out and they sit and they do different games to engage them in their sensory awareness. And what's interesting about that is that's their own observation, and it's not necessarily like, well, here's this book and you can read about it. It's like this is your own observations about how nature interacts with you, and then the kids sort of come to this own relationship, a unique relationship with nature. And part of our program is that that helps them possibly find sort of like what their heart's telling them, I guess, and what's kind of maybe drawing them, not just thinking of like just a job necessarily, but something they love, something that maybe they can give back to the earth in some way. And so when they start making things and doing things, it first of all gives them a reason to go outside, right? They can go make a quickie bow with a padded arrow, or they know how to collect these plants to eat, and so it gives them this reason to go out and start caretaking and build that relationship with nature. So yeah, we do a lot of games and fun things, and this Burton here has been an amazing place. It's just so ideal with how close it is to town, but also it has this real sense of kind of like a little wilderness. So we have different areas with the pond camp and the survival camp, and then the village area. So it's been really rich. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. And so do these kids, they come and do either a summer camp program for a short period of time, or is it more of a longer experience with the land and a relationship? Like,
That's a good question. So there's both. There's like in the summer, we have summer camps. We do get a lot of local kids, but then in the summer we might get kids from other areas, and their parents come up and stay maybe in a B&B in Nevada City and take their kids over here.
mhm,
Those are like week-long chunks in the summer, and then throughout the year, like you're saying, they come for like a session, so they might come for like a couple months. Every day, one day of the week, we try to fit it into their like daily schedule or weekly schedule. They might come after school, or some are homeschooled or charter schooled, and some come for different times. And what's been interesting is there's a few now they're young adults. They're 18, 19, that kind of age, and they've been with us for 10 years, and now they teach with us. So they like, for instance, they planted alder trees when they were young, and now they're like 30 feet tall. So to see that kind of thing, as a caretaker of the land, the steward, it's like it's kind of magical, because they can tell, oh wow, we've helped create this, and they're part of it. So yeah, we have, and it's not all the kids that stay that long, but some do, and then now they help teach, and so it's been really kind of like this mentoring system now. So yeah, we and then not only that, our organization does stuff in different places too, but we do a lot of stuff here at the Burton.
great. Yeah, that taking, young kids on this journey through, a big part of their life, like to date, and having them hold on to that is really important and powerful. Do you work with any like, schools or partner in that way as well, or is it more like local families?
Well, what's interesting about California, there is a lot of charter schools that we're a vendor through. So if they have a partial school, they get an allowance, and they could use that funding to use for foxwalkers. And so we get that, and then and these vendors are all over the Northern California. And then we also have field trips for schools, public schools, like for instance, Deer Creek has come out here before. And then also schools from like the greater area, like Sacramento, they'll come up, and it's kind of a new environment for them, and they get to come up here and hear stories and do activities. So yeah, so we do kind of a mixture of things. Yeah, public school and charter school. Yeah, different things like that. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. And what would you say would be the one thing that if kids come from Sacramento or more of these urban areas that they can really take back with them? I know you mentioned the survival, like wilderness skills, but is there one thing for sure that you could say?
Hmm. Well, I think especially when kids come from different areas, first of all, they always get a hands-on lesson. So let's just say you take an example of like cattails, and they see the cattails growing there, and they probably have them somewhere near where they live.
Mhm.
And then we have them prepped, like we picked them before, dried them, and then re-soaked them, and then they make a cord. And a lot of times they can like take that home, and so they're learning how to look at the nature not just as like, oh, it's nature, it's over there. It's like it's kind of like the supermarket, it's like
Yeah.
the grocery store, and so then you got to take care of it. Well, how do you, if you want to make these things, how do you caretake them to be there? So they do that, and they also, as far as the kids, we have like a Jedi game or like a shelter building, and those things they get really fun. And sometimes we have like awareness things, which there might be someone that like one of our interns will maybe hide somewhere, and then they'll pop out and they'll be like, oh my God. And all of a sudden they're like, where's everybody else? And so it gets them being more aware, because if you, and it, the scare, it's like a fun scare, you know, but it gets them thinking like, oh my God, who's around here, you know, and where could they be? And so it activates their like internal DNA, and like, there's things out here we don't know about, you know, so it's really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so the land trust held the preserve, the 38 acres, in a fee title, which means we owned it and we maintained it. And then in 2019, it actually got transferred to your organization. Can you talk on that process and where you were before and now owning the land? Has anything changed?
Well, it was an interesting story, because, you know, we were here, and then I remember Marty Coleman, who was graciously enough to just let us be here. And as it started to grow, she was like, wow, you guys are pretty popular, you know, like fox walkers. And we're like, yeah, yeah. And she's like, there's like people coming out of the holes in the ground. And so as it went, I don't know, at one point, you know, it's a very interesting piece of land, because it's not a lot of the land trust, like, you know, helps protect, is like these big tracts of land. This is kind of like this neighborhood place. And we also have Food Love Garden here, part of Sierra Harvest. So there's that program that teaches, you know, gardening to a lot of public school kids. And so I think what happened was, it was like, well, why don't you guys, do you guys want to do this? Because we're educators. And so we're like, well, okay. And so, you know, we had to change a little bit. It's been very small. It still is, but we had to grow a little more. And so now, yeah, I think it took a few years, about 3 years, to get our stuff together. Like, okay, we got to take care of this place. And, you know, I do see it as, because people say, do you own it? And so what's interesting is we're a nonprofit, so I can't really say like I'm the owner. But what I like about it too is, if you look at it from like a, you know, indigenous way, it's like we're the caretakers. We're caretaking it for a future generation, and it's a huge responsibility. So that's the way I see it, and I feel very fortunate to be able to live here, take care of the place as best I can, and have the kids come. Like I said, we have our programs here, and we work with the local tribe, Shiakamni tribe, and then the farmers are down there, and they have kids coming. So it's like this neat mix of different educational things going on. And you guys have your wonderful public trail here, so people could just come and walk here, and walk their dogs, and do all these things. So it's not shut out. It's like a nice little place. A lot of the neighbors come, and they just really enjoy it. So I think I think Francis Burton is very happy as what has happened here. So.
Yeah, and again, we're just so glad that this program exists on this land and is open and available for all these kids to come out and really enjoy the land, have a deep learning experience and enrichment, and it's just amazing to see. And you mentioned the cultural center on the land. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and your relationship with the tribe and how you pull that into environmental education locally.
Yeah, you know what's really neat. When I came here, there's like this bark house up here, and it's on an old site, a 5 or 6 thousand year old site. And what's amazing is having kids go into something like that with a fire in it. I mean, it's pretty magical. We
Mhm.
share stories, and you know, our program. You got to remember that I learned from a guy who learned from an old Apache. You know? And we don't necessarily go in one tribe way or the other, because they're all a little bit different. But what it is like a baseline of skills that all indigenous cultures around the world, because we're all from an indigenous tribe, really. And so it gets you back in touch with those basic, simple things of how to take care of the land, you know, how to connect with nature in a real way. Because this is really an old way. And I always say the really old ways is kids always had fun. They always laughed. And so partnering with the tribe here has been great, because we do most of it, but it's really amazing to have sort of like this cultural element, and having them at least, you know, in some of these types of structures and houses that are really old, and it can kind of remind you of your old ancestry from maybe way back or wherever that is. And it does remind us that we're all just these two-legged, you know, running around, and we're stalking wolf, which was my teacher's teacher, who was Apache. His vision was sort of like, you know, here's all these people, we're all people. We got to take care of the earth, we got to take care of each other and live in that harmonious way. And that was really part of his vision. So, and each community does a little different. So, yeah.
Great. And I think we're coming almost to the end of our conversation here, but I just wanted to talk if you had any, besides parents actually signing up their kids in your program, do you have any tips for, parents taking their kids in their backyards to do any environmental education?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is of course, since the last month or so, we've been doing these online courses with our kids, and it's surprisingly we have kids from actually all over the world. We have a kid from New Zealand, and so everyone has a different backyard. Some people actually are just in an apartment, so that's a new thing. But you could still find a little bit of nature, and I think as far as it's kind of like the backyard wilderness
Hmm.
is getting kids to they can put a blindfold on and walk outside and do things, and it's a fun game. Or they can put a stick, like a fun one is you put a stick in the ground and then another stick on the other side of your backyard or how far you can go. And then you put a blindfold on and see if you can walk, there. Or you take a stick and make marks like tracks and put a blindfold on and, follow it like that. And there's other things like projects they can work on, like, hey, do you want to collect animal skulls? Well, maybe get some carrion beetles and, have them eat them and clean them up, and you can make a collection. And in that, you learn so much about animals. And, the list sort of goes on and on. And we also have, I don't know if I mentioned, we have like a teen thing, these different ages. And some of the teen stuff, we get into traps and kind of like these scout skills and games where it's like kind of, it gets into some really fun stuff and gets them sort of thinking a different way too of when they grow up, are they going to think about, the environment, so yeah.
Great. And are all these resources available on your website or somewhere else that, parents could tap into these resources?
Yeah, so we've been really busy putting up the Zoom stuff, and we've put some stuff on our website. People can just sign up. We're going to do a special one coming up in a few weeks, and Tom Brown's going to come visit and tell some stories, and John Young, another teacher of ours. But if they are on our website, you can see that we have had quite a few people that they need something for their kids to do. But I just want to say that we're trying to keep down the amount of time on the screen as much as we can and just get some interaction and then give them stuff to do. We call it not like homework, but it's nature dirt time adventures, that kind of thing. So yeah, they could check us out on our website. I don't know, you want to tell them what it is, or should I? Or
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and say where they can find you?
it's our website is the number 4 with 3 E's, EEE.org. And if you look on there, there's our online things, and hopefully, we're still planning for summer. We don't know yet, but we hope we can, in all summer we do stuff starting like mid-June. So yeah.
Great. And again, you gave some really good ideas of just getting out into your backyard and just exploring what you have right, 2 steps away from your back door. I know I was going around my area and there was so many different kinds of trees and flowers that if you just take a moment to just look around, it's amazing what you'll find.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we kind of take it for granted. We don't look that close. You can, one really cool thing is the lawn even. It's like if you get down real close to your lawn and look in there, there's a whole world in there that we'd never probably look at. I mean, it could be describing like dinosaurs and dragons, and it's like these little insect world and the little rodent world, So yeah, you can look really close. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add about your program?
Um, well, let's see. Well, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I have to say, I'm really grateful for the Land Trust for all the work you guys do. And this place, it just ended up, and I don't know how this all happened in the end, but because usually land trusts don't transfer land to other folks. But I just want to let everyone know that this is something that forever we're hoping that, this is educational. And actually we've kind of changed the name. We haven't got, is the Burton Educational Preserve. Because it's it's a homestead, but not in the same context. It is more for education. And so, yeah, we really want to give back to this community, and it's a place where people can come not only to learn, but they can come for a walk. They could do the gardening. There's cultural stuff here, so it's like it's a kind of a cool mix. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, if you guys haven't checked out this Burton educational, what did you call it?
Oh, Burton Educational Preserve.
Burton Educational Preserve, previously Burton Homestead Preserve. There's the Yuba Trail that wraps around the outside of the property, which is a beautiful little hike, and there's a really nice shade structure to have a picnic. I just encourage you guys to go out, go on a hike, say hi to Rick if you see him out there, and check it out, because it's a really awesome, beautiful piece of open space, and we're really glad that it's was donated to us, that we could steward it, and now it has the boundless potential to educate, hundreds of thousands of children locally and across the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rick, for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Okay. Thanks, Felicia. All right. Take care.